Welcome back everyone, my name is Dustin, and in the last video we created the application class and loop. And in this video we're actually going to start looking into scripting. We aren't actually going to be able to do much with it yet, however I'd rather get it in now than later on. Depending on how long this video takes, I may decide to split it up over multiple videos. We're going to be using Lua with Sol3 for binding with C++. The reason I chose Lua is it's very easy to learn and very lightweight. First thing we're going to have to do is go get both of those. And you just type in Google or whichever browser you use, Lua download. So we'll go to Lua download, and we're not going to use 5.4 because I don't really know what changes have been done for 5.4, and I've already been using 5.3. You could use Lua JIT if you want because Sol2 works with Lua JIT as well, so that's up to you. Lua JIT is actually based on Lua 5.1. I have used it before, but we're not going to be using it in our engine. We're going to be using 5.3. So the first thing we're going to do is go to binaries, and then from binaries we want to go down to Lua 5.3.5, and here we want Windows libraries, and we want static libraries, and then we're going to want to go to this one right here, Windows 64 VC16, and just click on this, and that should be in our downloads folder. There it is, it's on its way. Cool. So before we do anything with this, we might as well go get Sol. Again, right in your browser, just write in Sol3 GitHub, and we're going to go to this here, and we're going to go to releases. Down here we go to releases. Let's get the latest. And down here, we're going to want these three files. So we're going to want sol hpp, forward hpp, and config hpp. Those are all being downloaded. And we're also going to want to go get the license. So if we just go back to Sol, go to license, or we just go to raw, Control A, Control C, awesome. And then open up our downloads. Here, we might as well just add a new text document. We'll call this license. And in here, paste that in, save it. Cool, we got them all. So right now, we'll just grab these four things and cut and go to your dependencies. So here, wherever your project is, dependencies, and we're gonna add a new folder, and we'll call this Sol3. And we'll go inside of this, and we'll add another folder, and we'll call it Sol. And we'll go in there, paste those in. Cool. So that's there. Now we need to extract the Lua. So you just extract your files. And we're going to want this lib and this include. So we'll just cut these. Go back to your dependencies. I'm just going to create a new folder here, and we'll call it Lua. I'll 53 for 5.3, and paste this in. And I'm just going to make one more folder for the lib, and we'll move that into there. Cool. There. Now we have all of those. All right. Let's go back to our program. Okay. So now that we have those in our dependencies, there's a few things we're going to want to do. In our core, we're going to want to create another 2 folders. So we'll go to here, actually our core, we're going to make 2 more folders. One, it's going to be for scripting. The scripting folder will hold a lot of our bindings that we're going to have. And we'll make another one, and we'll call this systems. Okay, now that we got those, we're going to want to link Sol and Lua, and we'll go to our VCC directories. Down here, let's do Lua first. So we'll go to here, dependencies, Lua, include. Cool. And then we want to get Sol as well. So dependencies, Sol3, cool. Grab that, paste in our solution dir, awesome. Okay, we'll apply that, but we also want to add in our library directory because we want to have the Lua lib. Cool. Solution dir. apply that, and we'll have to go to librarian, additional dependencies, and here we're going to add in Lua 53.lib. I believe that's what it's called. Okay, and we might as well do the same thing for our editor, so we'll add those in. Properties, VCC directories, grab Lua, the include, and then dependencies and grab Sol. Library directories, nope, we want Lua, lib, cool. Hopefully we're not making any mistakes. Now we have to go to linker. We want to go to input. And from here, we want to add in Lua 53.lib. Okay, that's there. Okay, now we should be ready. So the first thing we're going to want to actually create is a script component. So come back here, go to components, and we'll add new item. And that's a new header item, and we'll call it script component.h. And the script component is pretty straightforward, so we want to go include sol.hpp. Not sure why it doesn't see that. So let's go back. Properties, VCC directories. You guys probably saw what I did wrong. I believe that's the issue there. Fine, did that work? Yay, there it is. Okay, so now we have Sol. We're going to go namespace. Namespace. Scion for ECS. And we'll have a struct script component. And the script component is going to have two things. It's going to have a Sol protected function, and it's going to be update, and we're going to initialize it as Sol Lua nil, and we're going to have a render function as well, and it's going to be initialized to Sol Lua nil. All right, now that we have our script, the reason why we want this is we want to have basically just one entity, which is our script entity that will run the main script for us. And then we can have other script entities if needed, but we're only worried about the main script right now. So let's go to systems, and we're going to add a new system. New header, and we're going to call this scripting system.h. or scripting. For our scripting system, we're going to need to have our registry, and we're going to need Sol as well. Oops. Then we're going to say namespace Scion core, and we're going to have a new one for systems. And then we'll say class script system. Let's say scripting or script, whatever you prefer. And we'll say private. For private, we're going to have the registry reference. So Scion core ECS registry, and that's going to be a reference and registry. And then we're also going to have bool mb main loaded. So we'll say public scripting system for our constructor, Scion, core, ECS, registry, reference. Registry. Our destructor can be default. We don't have anything that we have to especially destruct. And then we're gonna have a function called bool load main script. So what this is going to do, and this is taking a soul state reference, we'll call it Lua. So what this is going to do is it's going to read in our main script that we write. And basically the main script's going to have everything in it. Right now it's just going to have two functions, an update function and a render function. But later on, all other scripts will be based off of this main. Kind of like our main entry point for our C++ program. This is basically going to be our main entry point for all our Lua scripts. Because if you remember from last time, I said all of our games are our engine is going to be game agnostic. So all game code, game specific code is going to be written in Lua. There will be nothing in the engine that's game specific. So the goal here is to be able to have enough of the engine functionality available to the Lua script so we can do everything in the Lua scripting. That's the goal for that. So now we're going to have an update and a render function as well. Okay, so let's create all of these. Let's open that up. Scripting system, and let's just do this namespace Scion core systems, put that all inside and get rid of all this extra stuff. And we need to do our registry. Registry. That's going to be the registry that's sent in. And we're going to have mb main loaded is going to be false. Oh, don't need that there. So we're going to have a few includes at the moment, and we're going to have the ECS, and we're going to need components, and we're going to need our script component, and we're also going to need our entity. And we're also going to need the logger. Logger. Cool. So the first thing we'll do is the load main script. Eventually all game code will also be saved into its own project, but for now we're just going to add it to the editor assets. So let's just do that here, and we'll go to here. You know what? Before we do load main script, actually let's go make the main.lua file. First thing we'll do is we'll go here in editor and assets, and we'll just add a new folder. And we'll call it scripts. Cool. So in scripts, we'll add a new file. New, and we'll call this main.lua. So we'll just do this, main.lua script. And we'll just say main. This is a table called main, and we're going to have two entries in this table. And it's going to equal basically another table, which is this one's only going to have a function in it, and it's going to be called update, and that's going to equal a function. And here we're just going to say print. We are updating in Lua. Okay, and then we're gonna have another one. We can basically just copy this. There'll be a lot more in this later on, but this is what we need for now. We'll change this to 2. Now we'll change this to render. This is just in case we want to render things specifically in a certain way. We'll do that in the scripts. However, there will be rendering systems in the engine that will do most of it for us. We are rendering in Lua. That's just for testing. So these two, the goal at the end of this is to make sure that these are actually showing up in our console. Okay, so let's go back to loading. We want to load. The first thing we're going to want to do is just say try. And we're going to say auto result is equal to lua.safe script file. And we need our path, and that's at assets, code, main.lua. That's where it is right now. Now this will change later. Eventually it will be based on the project itself. And then we'll have a catch. That's a sole error, reference error. We can say const here. And we're going to say std, or we can say Scion error. I want to say error loading the main Lua script. And we want to put what the error is. And that's going to be error.what. And then we're just going to return false. So if it made it this far, let's get rid of this right here. We don't need it right now. So if I made it here, we're going to want to create a table. Sol table main Lua is equal to Lua at main. So it's going to look for the, sorry, this needs to be equal. So it's going to look for the main table here. That's what it's going to do. And sol optional sol table. Let's say b update exists is equal to main Lua, and it's going to look for the first entry. Then we say if b update exists is equal to sol null op. Well, we're going to want to have an error here. We're going to want to say Scion error. There is no update function in main.lua. Return false. So now we're going to actually want to get this function and make it into a sol function. So let's go sol table update script is equal to main Lua at 1. And sol function update is equal to update script dot update. So it's finding this entry in the table. So then this is basically a table. So main at 1 is a table, and we're finding this entry in the table, which is a function. So now we want to see if the render function exists, and we want to do basically the same code. So we can just go with this here. And we'll say b render exists. This is 2 now. Change this to render exists. There is no render function in main. Return false. Let's just go back real fast. Yeah, I called it render, okay. And we basically want to do the same thing here. We can just copy this. And we'll call this the render script. Number 2, render. And render is equal to render. So now that we actually have the render script and the update script functions out of the main.lua, we're going to want to create our main script entity. So we can go Scion core ECS entity, and we'll say main Lua script, and that takes in our registry, and we're going to call it main script, and it's not going to have any group. So the name is going to be main script and group, and we're going to say main Lua script dot add component, and our component is going to be our script component. So Scion core ECS script component, and we're going to go down the line. And here we're going to go Scion core ECS script component. And we're going to say dot update is equal to update, and dot render is equal to render. Okay, does that make sense there? So what we're doing here is we're reading in our script file, our main file, and we're checking to see if there's any errors in the script itself. So it's going to read it and see if there's any errors. And then from there, we're getting the main table. And then from there, we're getting all the other tables and the functions accordingly. And then here we're adding those to our entity. And then now we just want to say mb main loaded equals true, and then return true. All right. Right at the top of the update, we're going to want to check to see if mb main loaded. If not mb main loaded, we're going to want to just have an error. Main Lua script has not been loaded. And then we'll just return from here. And we can take the same thing and put that in the render. Awesome. So now we're going to want to get the view from the registry. And so we go auto view is equal to m, and we're going to want to filter this with our script components. M registry, get registry, view, Scion core, ECS, script component. And that will send us back a view of all entities that have a script component. Now, there's only the one entity right now, but there may be more later. Const auto reference entity in view. So now we want to loop through all the entities, and the first thing we're going to do is actually create one of our entities. Scion core ECS entity. I'll just call it ent. But before we do that, we actually want to go to entity and add a new constructor. So here we have these two constructors. I want to add one more, and this constructor will create an entity from an entity, because these ones will create a new entity in the registry. We don't want to do that. So we want to go entity, and it'll be registry. But we also want to send in an entity. And the first thing we want to do here is set our m registry of the entity to the registry. And we want to send the m entity to the entity being sent in, entity. Then we'll just set m as name to nothing for now, and then m as group to nothing as well. But we can't just do that because this entity already does have a name and identification. So what we're going to want to do is go if m registry dot get registry dot all of identification and entity So all we want to do here now is set our name and our group to our ID that we get. So we want to go auto ID is equal to get component identification. Then we have to set m as name equal to ID dot name, and then m as group is equal to ID dot group. Okay, so now that we have that, we can go back to our scripting system and create our entity. So we go send in the registry and the entity, And then from there, we're going to want to go if. So we don't have a way to get the name yet. So we need to add that in. I thought I had that already. So let's go back to there. Let's go back to entity. Let's just say inline const std string reference get name return and s name. Let's make this const here as well. We'll just copy this down and do the same thing for group. Get group. Cool. Let's go back to our system. So if ent.get name is not equal to the main script, for now we just want to continue. I don't care about other scripts right now. I just want to continue. And then we want to get the script. So auto script is equal to ent.get component Scion core ACS script component. And then we want to go auto error is equal to script update, and we'll send in the entity. And then we're going to see if it's valid. If we're not valid, so this function here returns an error, and we want to make sure it's valid. If it's not valid, we want to say Scion error running the update script. And let's see what the error is. And that's just error dot what? Actually, sorry. We need to change this to an error first. So we go sol error is equal to error and then error dot what. Okay, so then we have our error there, and I believe we can just copy all of this and put it into our render. Everything's basically the same. The only thing that changes is this here, to render. And error running the render script. Okay. All right, I think we're almost done this part. So let's go into our editor. Let's go into the application. And up here, let's do it right after let's do it anywhere up here. Right here where we're adding the context. So right before we add this stuff, we'll go here. So we're gonna wanna do some includes up here. We're going to need, so up here, we're gonna include our core systems, scripting system. And then right down here, we're gonna wanna, first thing we're gonna do is create the Lua state. We're gonna wanna add this to the context, so we're gonna wanna make it into a shared pointer. So we'll just go auto Lua is equal to std make shared, and that's sol state. So it doesn't see sol, so we're gonna have to add that in. So include sol, so it doesn't see it either. So I must have made the same mistake in the editor. So let's go here, properties, and we'll go down. Yeah, right here. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this. So that's there. Check to see if it's the same for this. And that should be good. Apply. Cool. So it sees sol now. We don't need it up here because it's already included with our scripting system. So we'll go down. So right now, let's just check to see if we actually successfully created that. So if not Lua, we just want to put a quick error and say Scion error failed to create the Lua state. And then just return false. And if we get here, we want to actually load some libraries. We're just going to load a bunch of libraries right now. We don't need them right now, but we might as well load them rather than coming back later. So we just go Lua, open libraries, and we're going to say sol lib base, sol lib math, sol lib os, sol lib table, sol lib io, sol lib string. Cool, so those are open now. And now we want to add this to our registry context. So we want to go if not np registry, add to context std shared pointer of sol state, and send in Lua. I think that's good. Yep. And if that didn't work, we want to say Scion error failed to not failed top, sorry. Failed to add the sol state to the registry context. Return false. Cool. Now that we have our Lua and our everything is good, now we want to create a scripting system. So we want to go auto script system. So go to std make shared Scion core systems scripting system. And we want to send in our registry, a dereferenced registry, and then same idea as this. If not, script system failed to create the script system. Yeah, return false. We're also going to add the script system to our registry context, and I'll show you in a minute why, because we're going to want to be able to just call it from our registry, and we'll get that after. But the first thing we want to do is actually load the main Lua script. So let's do that now. So I go if not script system. If you remember, load main Lua script is a bool, and we want to send in Lua Scion error failed to load the main Lua script, return false. And let's add this to the registry context. So we don't need a comment, it's basically self-explanatory. np registry, add to context, std shared pointer, Scion core, not ECS, sorry, systems, scripting system. And that takes in our script system. Let's copy this, go down, fail to add the script system to the registry context. All right, we're almost done. So now we just want to come down into our update. Before we were just updating the camera. Now we actually want to update the script system as well. So after we update our camera, let's go auto reference script system. Script system is equal to np registry get context. Now we want to get an std shared pointer of Scion core core system scripting system. We want to get our scripting system. And then once we have our scripting system, we can do a check if it exists, but if it gets to here, it should already exist. So we'll just go script, system, and we want to update. So let's copy this, because we're going to do the same thing in render. And we probably want to do it in here somewhere, but we won't, you know what, we'll do it in here. This might change, this will most likely change later on, but this is what we're going to do for now. And now is the moment of truth. We're going to run this, and if it works, it should be spamming the console with messages from Lua. So let's run it. And if not, we're going to have to fix whatever broke. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, so cannot open it, no such file or directory. See, we got all these beautiful errors right now. That's great. So we know our initialization failed, but it can't because we do not have this. Oh, I didn't call it code. I called it scripts. Where are we loading that? It's in script system and loading. This is not code, this is scripts. And go. So we're somewhat working. We're updating. The updating's worked, but there's an error in the render script, which is good. Let's go back here and see what's wrong. Looks the same. What did that say? That error. Let's go back to see what the error says. Attempt to call nil value. What does that mean? So let's put a breakpoint in here. Entity 1, get name. It's equal to the main script. So it does have an error. Attempt to call nil value. Alright, so it must be something when we're loading. That's the problem right here. You guys probably already saw that right there, that problem. If we run it again, it should work. You could probably take this breakpoint out and run it. And there's our beautiful eye. Let's see our console. Yeah! So now we're updating and rendering. That's being scripted from Lua. Isn't that great? So now we actually have to start doing our bindings so we can get our camera bindings, our input bindings. There's many things we still have to do. So now that we already have our scripting, whenever we add something new into our engine, we're going to add our bindings in at the same time. Okay? So say we add in our keyboard and mouse, we're going to add our bindings in there. Say we add in, so now that we already have our camera and everything, we need to go back and make bindings for the camera. So we're going to have to, actually that could be a good exercise for you guys. Maybe look in the Sol3 documents and look how to do new user types. And that would be a great way to start. If not, we'll go over that in the next video. All right, I'll see you then. Take it easy.